right. So now Glaucon and Animantus, two of Plato's brothers, enter into the conversation, and they want Socrates to prove that justice is valuable in two senses, right? For its effects and for its own sake. That yes, you can prove that justice is good for a community. It helps it cooperate so they don't war and fight amongst themselves. And this is a very useful function of it. But let's go on deeper into this idea of ethics as mental health, of justice as mental health, and show us how it's really valuable. So they want to pose a challenge, right? It's called the challenge of Gyges' ring. And it's basically a ring of what we call unaccountability. In the text, it's invisibility. But these days, we can almost detect invisible things with night vision goggles and whatnot, such that invisibility, I don't think, does the real trick. It's a ring of invisibility, intangibility, so you cannot be seen or touched, right? Basically, unaccountability. You can do anything you want, right? Everybody still going to think you're a wonderful person, right? It can be a kind of picture Dorian Gray, right? Oscar Wilde is a very good example of this as well, about a man who has a picture that every bad thing he does, over drinking, all this kind of stuff, overeating, goes to the picture and not on him. So he remains young and youthful, right, and handsome, while this picture becomes this horrendous thing. The same kind of idea here. It's a ring of getting away from these problems. So we give these to two people. We give one to a just person who behaves like you would, Socrates, right, how you would suggest. We give this to an unjust person like Symmachus, who will do it to maximize, right, his pleasure and profits. And let them run their lives, and he'll show us, right, at the end of our lives, which of these two people is the happier of the two, right. And that's a good challenge, folks. It's a really good question, and it hits right to the heart of the question, the heart of the issue. Now, Socrates is going to put using the afterlife as a point of reference right off the table. It's easy to say, well, God will see you and zap you in the end, so therefore, right, it's still a bad idea. He's not going to use religious references. He's not going to use the afterlife. He wants to prove it in this realm. Right? When you're dealing with people who don't accept ethics, you're not dealing with people who are particularly probably religious. So the argument needs to be founded in, and this is what makes it philosophy and not religion, is it's founded in something we can all, right, see for ourselves, right, rather than have to accept from somebody else, right? So we're going to take these two rings and we're going to put them on, right, two different fingers, and we're going to see what happens when comparing the lives of these two people as the whole things unfold, right? So we can figure out why justice is better than injustice. Socrates is going to point out that this is a really hard question that's being asked, right? And it's not easy to answer this. So since you've asked for a really tough question, you can't mind if I take a while to answer this. And this is what you're going to have to do. You can't answer these kind of questions in 20 words or less. Once again, you're going to run across problems. It's kind of definitional structure. This is a complex concept. And if he's going to take 100 pages explaining out what he means by this, that's because it's going to be a good definition, right? And once you've read this, you have a very good concept of what he's got in mind, and it can be passed on right through the ages because you have a very good idea what he's talking about, rather than just giving you a single zinger, right, which are useful, right, are not always applicable in every situation, right. So we're going to start looking at what Plato says the ideal society first. So we're going to construct a just society so we can see justice writ large, and then we're going to bring it down to the individual from what we see in that construction of it. So in this process, we start from a primal human society, right, of hunters and gatherers, and from that we're going to start building on to what it takes to create a Greek city-state, right? And as Plato says, we got to watch out. One of the things we've done here is we have built this city with a fever. That by building luxury items, you're putting in limitations, like my cattle, they never fight unless the resource is limited. By bringing in luxury items, you're bringing in limitations on resources that cannot be replicated easily, and it cannot be easily shared, right? Are going to cause conflict and problems. So you're going to have a city with a fever. Right, so it's almost like Plato's recommending, right, remaining in the hunter-gatherer stage. But if we're going to leave this and go to something else, we're going to have to be prepared for the inequities, right, that are inevitably going to come about, right, by leaving, right, this tribal state of nature, right, existence. Right, so for Plato, we start off with a human city's response to some human needs, right, food, clothing, shelter, the three basics, and we're going to need people to produce these, build these things, right, and we go on to build out, right, a city that was going to be divided in accordance with talents. Plato and it's not hard to see, folks, that some people are better at small, dexterous tasks, some people are better at lifting hard rocks, and you're going to simply start allocating labor in terms of where it'll be most effective, right, in terms of talents, in terms of abilities, right, in terms of interests, right, and we can start, right, building and constructing the things we need, right, for our city. And the things we're going to need, as Plato points out, we're going to need merchants. We need people to buy and sell. It's not good for a farmer to come and sit in the city all day. He'd be better if he has a middleman, right, to deal out the goods. An excess of production to create exports. So you got the export rise. You want to build a kind of Athenian society, and you're going to need an army. right? Going to need protection and defense. So we're going to build a society, we're going to put these very elements in there, and then we're going to try to mix them up, and we'll then compare this back to human mind. Plato thinks there's a comparison between human societies and human minds, right? And once you say about one, you can say about the other, backwards and forwards. And it's important to keep this in mind. Some of these recommendations, which for a society may not be that possible for contemporary societies, however, they're still possible for you to do in your individual life. So Plato, for instance, can argue against censorship in literature, right? Whereas our society does not censor literature. I do. I don't watch just anything on TV. I certainly don't watch something scary or bloody or murderous before I go to sleep. It gives me bad dreams. So you can use these as recommendations, right, in your own private life, even though we're not using them on a social scale, right? So Plato's not going to spend a lot of time on dealing with the capitalistic and market structures. For him, these are things that are already worked out, you can understand, and will be driven by the market forces. So there's no need for him to discuss this at any length. He is, however, interested in what he calls the guardian class, right, which primarily be two classes, right? You'll have the warriors, and then you'll have, right, the generals or leaders of this guardian class, right? And Plato doesn't want to have what we call the citizen soldiers, right, the National Guards, right. Athens' main rival, right, is Sparta, which is a military power. It is a land-based power. It has an army, right. They have professional soldiers. They train all year round, professional class of soldiers, and they're really, really tough. They don't lose fights. And Plato has these guys in mind when he wants to build up his military. He wants the same kind of structure, right. One that is not easily defeated and very, very tough. But they're going to be professional. They're going to be year-round, like the Romans built, right, instead of just pulling people out of production and farming and whatnot when you need an army very quickly, right. We're going to have to make sure these individuals have all the qualities necessary, right, to be good warriors. They're going to have to be strong, swift, right, keen of perception, right. But also Plato here is going to bring in some of these Bronze Age metaphors, like a dog, right. Well, a dog, what's got a dog with it? Well, dogs are very friendly to people they recognize and know. They're very unfriendly to people they don't know, right. Just like our guardians, right, our police should be friendly to our citizens and unfriendly to people we're not really sure who they are, right. The same kind of idea, right. So he wants his guardians to know, right, who their friends are, right, who they're protecting and who they're to be suspicious of, right. So in that sense, they're going to also be like dogs and loyal, like dogs, right. Dogs are very loyal animals, and cats are not. A big cat, if you leave it right unfed in your house and you go away on vacation for 2 weeks, you come back home, it'll feed on you. A dog will not, unless we look at his bowl. So, right, we don't want cats for guardians, we want dogs, right. And this also sounds kind of strange that he wants to begin their training with music, gymnastic, and censorship, right. Plato, right, will see, again, that justice is harmony. So he doesn't like tunes, and there's perhaps certain personalities, I might say, that are more impacted by the arts than others. Right? Some people are very moved by this stuff, some people are not. Plato's one of those individuals that seems to be very moved by literature and art. He's very careful when he thinks what people should be exposed to. He thinks you put the wrong kind of music out there and you get the wrong kind of impulses, the wrong kind of vibes going, you get the wrong kind of society going. So these warriors, right, are going to have to be mentally calm, right, and harmonious. We want music that will help them, right, achieve this state, right. And we're not going to let them read scary stories about the afterlife and things like that, right. The Greeks had a very terrible afterlife for anybody who wasn't a hero, right. And Plato doesn't like that idea, right. This idea of heaven awaits those who are loyal, right. Things like this is much more in tune with what he wants to talk about, right, in terms of convincing these people to do their job, rather than giving them bad role models. The Greek gods behave like little spoiled children most of the time as a result, right. Are not very effective role models either. So he wants to control what people see and understand. And that basically we're not going to have, like I said, role models that are bad.